Well, what can I say about one of the most hated prequel series in cinema history? Well, I can say this, originally, I really liked the prequels. These were the movies that I grew up with, and because I was only a child, the flaws that are in this movie, or in any of the prequels for that matter, didn't make much difference to me, so I enjoyed it. But as the years went on and I continued watching these movies, I started comparing them with the original trilogy and The Force Awakens at the time, and that's when my opinion changed. So, what's the story? Obi-Wan and his master Qui-Gon Jinn go to a planet called Naboo because the Traitor Federation have built up a blockade under the orders of Darth Sidious, who will later become the Emperor. And whilst trying to help the newly elected Queen Amidala, who's only 14 but whatever, in the process of trying to help her escape, they run into the worst character in Star Wars, Jar Jar Binks, and one of the most annoying characters in Star Wars, Anakin Skywalker. After some boring political talks on the Republic capital city of Coruscant, they find out that trying to get the Republic to send help to Naboo is going to take too long, and after the Senator Palpatine urges the Queen to call for a no-confidence vote in the current Chancellor, the Jedi and the Queen go back to Naboo to sort it out for themselves, and after getting some help from the Gungans, they manage to defeat the Trade Federation and bring peace to this planet. One of the main issues that I have with this movie is that it's not very interesting to watch. I don't care about what they're fighting for because there's nothing to care about. We don't know anything about these people, aside from the characters that are from the previous movies like Obi-Wan and the Emperor, or Darth Sidious and Palpatine. We don't know anything about these people, we don't know anything about this planet or the Trade Federation, and the Trade Federation don't even seem like that much of a threat, as well as the fact that the actors are just straight out boring and dull. On top of this, as a movie directed at 12-year-olds, it shouldn't be so focused on politics and not so directly in your face, because 12-year-olds don't know half of the language that's being said, because a lot of it, like no confidence vote, in terms that some adults don't even know. They don't know, even some adults don't understand that. And so as a child, you're enjoying it for what it looks like and not for the story. And this was the same for me. I was watching it back now, and I personally can look back at the movie and say, oh yeah, I know what that means, and oh, that makes sense to me now, and I understand that. But a lot of it, like at the time, for children watch it, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So if I understand what the movies were trying to say to me now that I've grown up, why do I not enjoy this movie as much as I used to? Well, I would enjoy this movie if it was entertaining to watch, and by God it's not. My complaints are your complaints. The actors are so dull and boring, the writing is not the best to say the least, and the effects are way too computer generated and it's used way too much. And as I've said before, it's very clear that this is the case because the technology and the CG is starting to look fake, and it's only been like 10-20 years. The stereotypes are way too offensive, the comedy is too childish, which I suppose is the point because it's designed for 12-year-olds, but as I've already stated, the political aspects of this movie contradicts this idea. So, yeah, what else can I add that you haven't heard a million times before from other people? Something else I hear of people saying about this movie in recent years, and as the trilogy as a whole, is that without this movie and the other prequel trilogies, we wouldn't have shows like The Clone Wars, which is some of the best media in the entire franchise. And while I agree that The Clone Wars is awesome, and without it we wouldn't have the prequels, if the prequels didn't exist, the Clone Wars wouldn't exist at all, that doesn't mean this movie or this trilogy is good. It just means that this has a place in the Star Wars universe and it deserves to be where it is, and it shows us how by getting through something that is bad, we eventually get something better in the long run. It doesn't make the movie good. I will try and defend this movie a bit, because everyone talks about this movie as if it's the worst movie that's ever been created, and it's not. Well, the idea that midichlorians is irritating people when it came out didn't really make a lot of sense to me. I like the idea of having something in your blood to make you Force sensitive. It's dumb, but everybody's saying how Lucas killed their childhood because they thought during the original trilogy that anybody could be a Jedi, and now he's saying there's only a few select people who have this ability. In my opinion, it's neat to see something being added to the Star Wars, but everyone's saying at the moment about how Disney is killing their childhood because they're adding things to the Star Wars universe that doesn't add up to how they like it. It's neat to see things that are being added to the Star Wars mythos to make it more of a definition and setting up more stories in the future. And as much as I complain how fake the CG looks, if it's being used to create massive landscapes, it's nice to see. Back in the original trilogy when it was released, CG wasn't used as much in film at all, so they had to use smaller sets. Now they made up for this by making the sets have a lot of personality and a lot more going on. But now you can make actual planets and landscapes, so you can see sheer amounts of cities and planets to give it real scale. Again, aside from this, there isn't much else better with this movie. The characters are so dull and boring, and if they're not boring, they're annoying. The CG is overused, and when the character looks really fake, and the good parts of this movie are not good enough to make this movie worth my time to watch it. But by watching it again, it's made me realise that this is what George Lucas wanted to show people, and it just so happens that it's not very good. But he had his vision made, and it's interesting from an analytical point of view to see a guy's dream come to life with no one to get in his way, and it's kind of an important movie for that. It shows that artists are flawed and there's no such thing as perfect. We will never know why this movie turned out so bad. Was there no one to tell him that what he was doing was bad? Was he absent from directing for too long, or was he just never that talented to begin with? It's one of those things that's fun to speculate. If you enjoy this movie, then good. I can see where you're coming from, because I enjoyed this movie when I was younger as well. But from my point of view, this is a movie you can easily just skip.